The Fox News studio pulses with raw energy, a cauldron of heat and anticipation. Red MAGA hats flood the stands, a sea of fervent supporters shaking the arena with their roars. The stage is a battlefield, meticulously designed. Blinding lights slice through the air, pounding sound reverberates, and cameras pan relentlessly to capture every moment. At the center of this storm stands Sean Hannity, the veteran host, his sharp smile cutting through the chaos. His voice booms through the microphone, commanding attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a historic showdown." Hannity's words ignite the crowd. Tonight, two titans, two visions, one America. To my right, Vice President J.D. Vance, the warrior of the MAGA movement, the voice of the working class. The stands erupt, chants of "Vance! Vance!" drowning the studio. Hannity raises a hand, quelling the frenzy, and continues. And to my left, former President Barack Obama, here to defend his ideals and the legacy he led for 8 years in the White House. J.D. Vance steps to his podium, eyes cold as steel, shoulders squared like a boxer awaiting the bell. His gaze is sharp, unyielding, ready to dismantle every fragment of Obama's legacy. Across from him, Barack Obama approaches with a calm demeanor, but his tense expression and hands gripping the podium betray the pressure he feels. The air crackles with expectation as Hannity launches the first question, tossing a grenade into the arena. "Vice President Vance, how do you assess Mr. Obama's immigration policies? Did they truly protect the American people?" The spotlight fixes on Vance. He doesn't hesitate, his voice thundering through the studio. "Mr. Hannity, Barack Obama's immigration policy wasn't just a failure, it was a betrayal of the American people. For 8 years, he flung open the border gates, letting predators like MS-13 flood our communities, sowing blood and tears across our soil. I grew up in Middletown, Ohio, watching safe neighborhoods turn into battlegrounds because of criminals Obama refused to deport. This wasn't policy. It was surrender." The crowd explodes, applause crashing like a tidal wave. Vance raises a hand, silencing them, his voice now heavy with sorrow. "Let me tell you about Maria Alvarez, a single mother in Columbus, Ohio. She worked grueling 12-hour shifts to raise her 3 kids. One night, her son Tommy, just 16, was stabbed to death by an MS-13 member on their front porch. The killer was an illegal immigrant, previously arrested for violence but released under Obama's watch. Maria now clutches Tommy's framed photo, weeping in despair. Obama, is that your compassion?" The audience falls silent, some choking back tears. Obama responds, his voice measured but strained. "My policies prioritized humanity, focusing on family reunification and opportunities for immigrants. Mass deportation isn't the solution. Comprehensive reform is." But Vance cuts him off, his voice slicing like a blade. "Humanity. For whom, Mr. Obama? For Maria, who lost her son, or the criminal holding the knife? Under you, criminal deportations dropped 40% compared to President Bush. In 2008, America deported 400,000 criminals. By 2016, only 240,000. MS-13 spread to 40 states, killing hundreds. You call that reform? I call it blood on your hands." The crowd roars, chants of "Vance! Vance!" echoing. Obama tries to counter, his voice rising. "Those numbers don't tell the full story. We targeted dangerous criminals, not innocent workers. Border security needs balance with compassion." Vance gives him no room to breathe. He steps forward, pointing at the audience. Balance? You had 8 years to balance, and you left shattered communities. In Ohio, we don't need fancy words. We need safe neighborhoods where kids can play without fear of being shot. Under you, MS-13 turned towns into hellscapes, trafficking drugs, hacking off victims' hands, breaking families. I've walked those streets, held the hands of mothers who lost their kids. They won't be forgotten. Vance pulls a photo from his pocket, holding it high for the cameras. This is Tommy Alvarez, Maria's son. He wanted to be an engineer, but that dream was snuffed out by someone you refused to deport. Obama, look into Tommy's eyes and tell me you did the right thing. The audience goes quiet, then applause surges like a storm. Obama lowers his head, lips pressed tight, silent. Hannity jumps in, voice electric. Vice President, you say you and President Trump are changing this. How? Vance turns back, eyes blazing. Since taking office, President Trump and I have arrested 1,000 MS-13 members, added 10,000 Border Patrol agents, and built 200 miles of wall. We don't just talk, we act. Last year, criminal deportations rose 50% compared to Biden's time. The result? Safer neighborhoods where families like Maria can sleep without fear. Obama tries to counter, his voice tinged with desperation. A wall doesn't address root causes. We need to work with Central America, invest to reduce migration at its source. Vance smirks, his smile cold. Work together? You tried, and MS-13 grew stronger. While you sent money to Honduras, we sent criminals back where they belong. Americans don't need foreign aid. They need safe streets. The crowd leaps to its feet, cheers thundering. Vance continues, his voice a verdict. Obama, your policies were a ticket for criminals. You protected those who destroy the country over those who build it. We don't forgive, and we don't forget. Obama tries to respond, but his voice drowns in boos. I did what was best, balancing security and compassion. Vance shakes his head, his voice sharp. Best? Tell that to Maria. Tell that to thousands of families who lost loved ones to those you set free. Your best was a disaster, and America chose us to fix it. Hannity raises a hand, shifting topics, eyes gleaming. An explosive start, Vice President. Now, Obama touts his economic recovery. What do you think of his economic legacy? Vance smiles, but it's the smile of a hunter. Barack Obama's so-called economic recovery was a grand deception. For 8 years, he pushed America's working class into the shadows, letting factories close, towns crumble, and the American dream turn into a nightmare. I grew up in Ohio, where workers like my family were crushed by Obama's policies. This wasn't recovery, it was destruction. The crowd erupts, applause like thunder. Vance holds up a chart, lights illuminating cold numbers. Look at the facts. Under Obama, America lost 5 million manufacturing jobs. Average GDP growth was 2%, the slowest since the Great Depression. National debt doubled from 10 trillion to 20 trillion. While Obama celebrated recoveries in Washington, towns like Youngstown, Ohio, were left with rusted factories and desperate families. Vance's voice brims with emotion. Let me tell you about Joe Carter, a steelworker in Akron, Ohio. He worked 30 years, raising 2 kids, dreaming of sending them to college. In 2015, his factory closed because of cheap imports from China, enabled by Obama's trade deals like TPP. Joe lost his job, his home, his hope. Today, he works part-time as a security guard, his wages barely covering groceries. Obama, you call that recovery? Obama responds, straining for confidence. My administration inherited the worst financial crisis since the 1930s. We created 15 million jobs, cut unemployment from 10% to 4.7%. That's progress, not Vance's sad story. Vance leans forward, his voice a storm. Progress? Who did you create jobs for? Low-wage gigs in cities, or elites on Wall Street, while Joe Carter lost everything. The banks you bailed out with $700 billion handed million-dollar bonuses to executives. You signed TPP, letting China steal our jobs. From 2009 to 2016, China's exports to America surged 30%, killing Ohio's steel industry. You call that progress? I call it selling out workers. The crowd roars, jeers aimed at Obama. He pushes back, voice rising. We brought the economy back from the brink. Trade deals like TPP strengthened America's global standing, not hurt workers. Vance laughs, a chilling sound. Global standing? American workers don't need global standing. They need jobs to feed their kids, factories to work in, dreams to chase. You chose China, Wall Street, the elites. While you dined with billionaires, Joe Carter sold his car to buy milk. That's your legacy, a forgotten America. Vance holds up a photo of an abandoned Ohio factory, its walls crumbling. This is Joe's factory, now scrap. Under you, 50,000 factories closed. I've walked those towns, seen unemployed fathers lining up for benefits, mothers crying because they couldn't afford Christmas gifts. Have you ever stepped into those places, Obama? Or just read reports from the White House? The audience leaps to its feet, applause crashing. Obama lowers his head, searching for words. We invested in clean energy, education, health care to build a future. Not everything was perfect, but we made progress. Vance shakes his head, his voice a judgment. Progress? Tell that to 5 million workers who lost jobs, to towns turned into industrial graveyards. You invested in green energy, but who paid the price? Workers like Joe, who didn't need solar panels but stable jobs. You failed them, and they chose Trump to fix your mistakes. Hannity cuts in, voice electric. Vice President, you say Trump has done better. How? Vance turns to the audience, eyes blazing. President Trump and I brought jobs back. From 2017 to 2020, we created 500,000 manufacturing jobs. Our tariffs made China pay, protecting steel industries. Last year, we added 200,000 jobs, even as the media screamed recession. We're rebuilding the American dream. Obama's voice falters. Tariffs hurt consumers, drive up prices. The economy needs cooperation, not trade wars. Vance fires back. Cooperation? You cooperated with China, and they stole our jobs. Our tariffs brought work back for Joe, for Ohio, for America. You chose Beijing. We chose workers. Vance concludes, his voice a declaration. Obama, your economic legacy is shuttered factories, broken families, a forgotten America. Trump and I are restoring pride, jobs, hope. You failed, and we're the answer. Hannity raises a hand, eyes gleaming. Another knockout blow. Vice President Obama, cornered after 2 rounds. Hannity hurls the next question like wildfire. Vice President Vance, Obama spoke of racial unity, but many say he divided America. What do you think? Vance tilts his head, a subtle smile flickering. Mr. Hannity, Barack Obama promised unity, but sowed division. For 8 years, he turned Americans against each other, pushing us to the edge over race, class, belief. I grew up in Ohio, where workers, white, black, Latino, shared one dream: work hard, raise a family, build a future. Obama turned that dream into a cultural battlefield. The stands explode, applause like rain. Vance raises a hand, his voice tinged with outrage. Let me tell you about Sarah Thompson, a teacher in Dayton, Ohio. She taught for 20 years, loving every student regardless of race. In 2014, when Obama spoke of white privilege after Ferguson, Sarah's students grilled her. Do you have privilege? Sarah, who grew up poor, working 3 jobs, felt slapped in the face. Obama, you turned people like Sarah into enemies just because of their skin color. Is that unity? Obama responds, voice straining for calm. I worked to build bridges, encouraging honest dialogue about race. My speeches aimed to heal, not divide. Vance gives no quarter. Honest dialogue? You didn't dialogue. You lectured. You told workers like Sarah they were the problem, privileged despite having nothing but sweat and debt. While you talked healing, riots in Ferguson, Baltimore spread, tearing communities apart. That's not unity. It's manipulation. The crowd roars, shouts drowning the studio. Obama tries to counter. We had to confront America's history of injustice. I pushed for justice, not division. Riots were a consequence of inequality, not my words. Vance shakes his head, a contemptuous smile. Justice? Justice isn't turning white people into villains or black people into perpetual victims. Justice is fairness, regardless of race. You backed the Justice Department to vilify police, while Chicago, Baltimore drowned in violence. Under you, violent crime in cities rose 20%. You call that justice? I call it collapse. Vance holds up a sign showing a ravaged Dayton neighborhood, burned-out stores after riots. This is Dayton after your calls for justice. People like Sarah lost jobs because schools closed. Family businesses were torched. I've walked those streets, heard residents beg for peace. Have you been there, Obama? Or just given speeches at Harvard? Obama responds, voice trembling. I visited those communities, listened. We invested billions in education, jobs to reduce inequality. Unity takes time. Vance cuts him off. Time? You had 8 years and left America fractured. You invested billions, but who benefited? Elites, not Sarah in Dayton. You boxed Americans into labels, privileged, oppressed, instead of letting them be themselves. Hannity jumps in, voice brimming. Vice President, you say you and Trump are uniting America. How? Vance turns to the audience, eyes radiant. President Trump and I don't see Americans through race or class. We believe in one value: work hard, succeed. We created 500,000 manufacturing jobs, cut taxes for the middle class, built an America where everyone has a chance. That's unity, not Obama's divisive speeches. Obama interjects. Unity can't ignore historical injustice. We need dialogue. Vance fires back. Dialogue? You turned it into a monologue, forcing Americans to apologize for things they didn't do. Trump and I unite through action. Jobs, security, pride. You divided, we're healing. The crowd erupts, cheers crashing. Obama, once a confident orator, now resembles a boxer pinned against the ropes, his forced smile unable to hide the tension. Hannity seizes the moment, voice booming. Vice President Vance, Obama praised himself as a global leader. Did his foreign policy serve American interests? Vance stands tall, his gaze piercing. Mr. Hannity, Obama's foreign policy was a cascade of disasters. He promised peace, but left a world in chaos, where enemies mocked us and allies turned away. I grew up in Ohio, where workers believed in a strong America leading with honor. Obama turned America into a weakling, groveling for forgiveness. The stands quake, applause crashing. Vance holds up a chart, lights illuminating red curves. Facts. Under Obama, Russia annexed Crimea while he sent blankets to Ukraine. Iran got $150 billion from the nuclear deal, funding terrorism. China stole $600 billion in technology yearly. Obama calls that leadership. I call it surrender. Obama responds, voice trembling. My administration restored America's standing through smart diplomacy. The Iran deal prevented war, and we worked with China on climate change. Leadership builds bridges, not walls. Vance leans forward, his voice a tempest. Bridges? For Putin, when you let him invade Ukraine? For Iran, when you handed them billions for missiles? For China, when you let them steal our jobs? You turned America into a bystander, while enemies grew stronger. That's not leadership. It's cowardice. Obama counters, voice rising. We prevented war with Iran, stabilized the South China Sea, led on climate agreements. That's strength. Vance laughs, a frigid sound. Peace? Your peace was an illusion on paper. When Russia took Crimea, you went on TV. When Iran tested missiles, you sent a letter. When China built illegal islands, you held a press conference. While you spoke climate, China's exports to America surged 30%, drowning our manufacturing. Vance steps forward, voice hard. I've met Ohio workers, people with hope, now left with nothing because of Chinese goods. They don't need climate accords. They need a president who protects them. He holds up a photo of a young soldier in Ukraine, alone amid smoke. This is Jake, a Marine from Cincinnati. He fought in Ukraine, where they lacked weapons because Obama refused Javelin missiles. Under you, Ukraine lost Crimea. Jake lost comrades. I've met his family, seen their pain. Have you, Obama? Or just signed deals with enemies? The room falls silent. Then applause erupts. Obama speaks, subdued. We chose support through humanitarian aid, diplomacy. Not every problem needs military solutions. Vance cuts in, voice sharp. Aid? While Putin sent tanks, you sent blankets. Trump and I sent javelins, sent strength. We slapped tariffs on China, bringing back 200,000 jobs. We don't write memoirs. We act. Hannity jumps in, eyes gleaming. Vice President, you say you and Trump are leading the world. How? Vance turns to the audience, eyes ablaze. We put America first. We built the strongest military, boosting defense spending 20%. We made China pay, protecting jobs. We brought peace to Ukraine with resolve, not speeches. That's leadership. Strong, uncompromising. Obama's voice wavers. Strength isn't just military. Diplomacy avoided war, built alliances. Vance retorts. Alliances? You made allies turn away when you let Russia, China run rampant. Trump and I stand tall, and the world respects us. The crowd leaps to its feet, cheers like a tsunami. Vance concludes, voice an ironclad vow. Obama, your foreign policy was America on its knees, allies disillusioned, enemies gloating. Trump and I are rebuilding an America that leads with honor and strength. You failed. We're the new light. The room explodes, MAGA supporters surging, chants thundering. Obama, once a towering orator, now resembles a stranded ship, hands trembling as he adjusts his mic. Hannity, like a ringmaster, steps forward, voice brimming with mockery. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight wasn't just a debate, but a clash of two Americas, a past celebrated, a future rising. Before we close, a final word from each. Obama takes a deep breath, voice low. We're strong not just through military might, but through cooperation, leading with values. America is greatest when it listens, doesn't turn its back on the world. History will judge. Vance steps forward, staring into the camera. America doesn't apologize for its strength. We don't retreat, don't bow, don't let enemies dictate our destiny. The people are tired of weakness cloaked in flowery words. It's time we stand. It's time America leads again. The cheers erupt. The camera zooms on Obama's face, a hint of melancholy, a touch of bitterness. He knows the game isn't about reason anymore, but emotion, power, who makes the louder echo. Tonight, Vance has won that battle. As the stage lights dim, the audience doesn't leave like after a debate, but like after a war. Social media ignites. Clips of Vance's attacks on Obama's immigration, economy, culture, and foreign policy spreading like wildfire. A clip of Vance holding up Jake's photo hits 1 million views in minutes. Fox News and Breitbart blast headlines, "Vance crushes Obama in debate of the century." Liberal outlets like CNN and the New York Times defend Obama, criticizing Vance's aggression, but their tone is feeble, drowned by the MAGA wave online. By dawn, America is gripped by a fever named Vance. Across platforms, millions share, comment, argue about the showdown. It's no longer a debate, but a clash of visions, essences, Americas. Conservatives hail Vance as a populist hero, while progressives scramble to salvage Obama's image, though even they doubt the power of words as before. The White House issues a vague statement about global responsibility, but it's dwarfed by viral clips of Vance under stage lights. Voice resolute. Within days, Vance appears on every newspaper, channel, conservative podcast, not as a candidate, but as the movement's leader. In Ohio, thousands flock to Republican headquarters demanding more rallies. GOP strategists rewrite their platform, inspired by Vance's unapologetic rhetoric. No retreat, no apologies. In universities, students question Obama's pragmatism, seeing Vance as a new Reagan. In bars, churches, gyms, people talk not policy, but grit, saying Vance dares to speak. An Atlantic op-ed, "Politics is a battlefield, no longer a forum," asks if politics remains a space for reflection or an arena of instinct. But it's drowned by comments resharing debate clips. Obama retreats into silence, appearing only in a quiet photo at the Obama Foundation, gazing at Chicago's skyline, a world slipping away. Democrats argue over how to respond. Traditional arguments or accepting the stage has changed. Vance doesn't wait. He launches the Rebuild America tour, live talks across swing states, venues packed, screens set up for thousands waiting. In Des Moines, he closes, "I'm not running to be president. I'm running to restore the will of a nation shamed by those who represented it." The crowd roars. America shifts, not forced, but wanting to believe in something fierce, unapologetic. Within months, Republican politicians adjust stances, backing military budgets, tariffs, resolutions once deemed extreme. Democrats see quiet withdrawals. No one wants to face Vance on live TV. His story becomes America's, a nation weary of compromises, craving awakening, however fractured. Vance didn't create the anger. He named it, shaped it, voiced it. Those once silent now feel present in history. Vance changes how Americans see themselves, no longer apologizing, no longer restrained, but ready to defend what's right, even if it shakes the world. To supporters, he's the light-shattering pretense. To critics, he's a storm threatening democracy's values. That's the paradox. Truth overshadowed by stagecraft, ideals replaced by manifestos, the winner not who's right, but who makes the crowd feel right. Vance stepped onto the stage not to play a role, but to rewrite the script. As the curtain falls, the applause rings. People will talk about that night, not as a debate, but as the moment a new era began, with Vance as its standard-bearer, the past left behind.